This is the theoretical presentation on quantifiers. The aim of this lesson is to learn about quantifiers, what they are, what information they encode, and their right combination as heads that select different MPs as complement.
Okay, this is an overview of the lesson, an overview of the presentation. We will start by talking about the use of quantifiers and by providing some examples. Then, we will talk about the position quantifiers occupy in the structure and the type of complement they select. Later, we will mention some possible combinations, because remember that not all quantifiers combine with the same type of nouns. After that, we will talk about distributional criteria to describe quantifiers. We will mention which aspects you need to consider in order to describe a quantifier following distributional criteria. Then, we are going to see the steps that you need to follow to describe word categories in general, and then the specific steps you need to describe quantifiers. Finally, we are going to mention or explain how you need to explain ungrammatical data. This slide and the two that follow show the nouns that different quantifiers can take. The quantifiers another, each, either, and every can only combine with countable nouns in the singular form. The quantifier another is used to talk about an additional personal thing. For example, you can say, "Do you want another cup of coffee?" However, you cannot combine this quantifier with a countable plural noun. So, you cannot say another cups of coffee. The quantifier each is used to talk about the members of a group as individuals. For example, each essay must have its title. The quantifier either is used to talk about two things, but usually indicates that only one of the two is involved. You can say, for example, you can use either chair, but you cannot say either chairs. The quantifier every is used to express a general statement about the members of a group. The example is, every student in the class must wear a mask. Notice how these quantifiers combine only with countable nouns in the singular form. In the first example, we have the quantifier another, which combines with the countable singular noun cup. In the second example, the quantifier each combines with the countable singular noun essay. Either combines with the noun chair. Finally, the quantifier every combines with the noun student. All these nouns are countable nouns in the singular form. The combinations another cups, each essays, either chairs, and every students are not possible. The quantifiers all, both, many, and other can only combine with countable nouns, but in the plural form. The quantifier all includes every person or thing of a particular kind. For example, all students must sit for the written assignment. The quantifier both is used to say something about two people or things. You can say, for example, I need both copies. The quantifier many is used to refer to more than one entity. It is used with countable nouns. For example, you can say, there are many students attending ILE. The quantifier other is used to refer to something not already named or implied. So, for example, you can say, you can buy other books. Notice how all, both, many, and other combine with nouns in the plural form. All combines with the noun students. Both combines with the noun copies. Many combines with the noun students as well, and other combines with the noun books. All these nouns are countable nouns in the plural form.
Next, we will see the quantifiers that combine with countable plural nouns and uncountable nouns. This is, these quantifiers cannot select countable singular nouns as complement. So as stated, any, no, and some can either select countable plural nouns or uncountable nouns as complement. Let's see each one in detail. First, any refers to the quantity of something which may or may not exist. Any is generally found in negative and interrogative sentences. For instance, there aren't any teachers available today. Is there any sugar in that cup? Second, no indicates that there is a lack of something. For example, I have no money, there are no chairs in the classroom. Third, some indicates that there are a number of things or people or a quantity of something. There are some students waiting to enter the meeting is a possible sentence in English, while there is some computer is not, because some cannot select an MP whose noun head is a countable noun in the singular form. Now, in the case of the first two, any and no, it is important to highlight that there are special uses that can be found where any and no will appear with countable singular nouns. These are possible in some restricted cases with special meanings. In here, you may say, is there any computer I can use? There is no chair where to sit in the meeting. As to the combination of much, we can see that it can only be combined with uncountable nouns. So, for example, you may say, do you drink much coffee? But sentences like, there is much chairs are not possible. This is so because much does not select countable nouns in the plural form as complement. In this chart, you will have a summary of all the quantifiers we have analyzed. Here, they are grouped considering the MP they can select as complement. So, how to read this chart? Check this out. For example, the quantifiers another, each, either, every take MPs whose head is a countable singular noun as complement.
When you are asked to describe a word category, you need to bear in mind these general questions. These questions are steps that you need to follow to provide a complete description of the word you are analyzing. 1. What type of word is it? Say it explicitly. So, for example, you may say, this word is a quantifier. 2. Does the word belong to a subclass of the category specified in 1? What other details about it can you add? In the case of quantifiers, we don't have subtypes or subclasses. So, in this part, you will mention the types of nouns the quantifier analyzed can combine with. 3. What about morphological criteria? Is this a simple or a complex word? Are there any affixes attached? Of what kind and what meaning do they add? Provide examples. In this case, you need to look at the form of the word to see if it contains affixes. You need to mention if the word has an inflectional or a derivational affix and state what meaning that affix adds to the word. Also, you can provide examples of other words that contain the same affix. 4. What about distributional criteria? What syntactic relations does the word establish with its neighboring elements? Remember that when you talk about distributional criteria, you need to pay attention to the position the word occupies in the structure and the syntactic relations that word establishes with other elements in the structure. For example, quantifiers, which are the head of quantifier phrases, select noun phrases as complement. In this section, we are going to describe the steps you will follow to analyze quantifiers. As we said in the previous slide, there are a number of questions that you need to answer in order to provide a complete description of the word that you are analyzing. In type of word, you are going to say, this word is a quantifier. In relation to the subclassification, remember that there are no subtypes of quantifiers. So, what you're going to do is to mention the type of noun that quantifier can combine with. Remember that quantifiers can combine with countable singular, countable plural, or uncountable nouns. It is not relevant to say anything about morphological criteria for quantifiers because quantifiers do not contain any affixes. So you're going to concentrate directly on distributional criteria. Here, you're going to mention that the quantifier is the head of the quantifier phrase, and you will need to explicitly say which is the quantifier phrase. Moreover, you're going to mention that that head, that quantifier, selects a noun phrase as complement, and you will need to write which noun phrase you're talking about. Let's analyze one example. Here we're going to follow the steps we mentioned before to describe the quantifier present in this phrase. Some books. You're going to say the word some is a quantifier. It combines with countable plural nouns or with uncountable nouns. So, in this case, you mention all the nouns the quantifier some can combine with, and then you mention the type of noun the quantifier some combines with in this particular case. So, you're going to say, in this case, it combines with the countable plural noun books. So, remember it is very important to mention the specific noun the quantifier combines with in the example. Remember that morphological criteria are not useful to describe quantifiers because there are no overt affixes attached to it. So, you are going to concentrate directly on distributional criteria. In this case, you will say, this quantifier is the head of the quantifier phrase some books. It selects the noun phrase books as complement, and you can also add the structure.
Now that we have learned how to describe quantifiers, let's see how we use this information to account for the ungrammaticality of certain sentences in a set. In set 1, we can find the quantifier some. Sentence 1a shows that the quantifier some is the head of the quantifier phrase some chairs. it selects the noun phrase chairs as complement. The noun chairs is a countable plural noun. This is the reason why this sentence is possible. On the contrary, 1b shows the quantifier some combines with a countable singular noun such as chair. This is the reason why this sentence is ungrammatical. Let's analyze the second set. In here, the problem is different from the one we analyzed in the first set. The MP selected as complement is compatible with the quantifiers under analysis. The problem is that a quantifier cannot select a QP as complement. This is the reason why example 2b is not possible. Now, check the way in which this has to be explained. In sentence 1a, the quantifier many is the head of the quantifier phrase many serious technical problems. It selects the MP serious technical problems as complement. The countable plural noun problems is pre-modified by two adjective phrases, serious and technical. Adjectives are recursive and so they can be placed one after the other. On the contrary, 1b is ungrammatical because quantifiers are not recursive. They cannot be stacked. The quantifier several cannot select the QP many problems as complement. Quantifiers can only select MPs as complement.
Okay, let's sum up. Quantifiers are heads of quantifier phrases. So, when you analyze a quantifier, you need to mention which quantifier phrase it protects. Quantifiers, as heads of quantifier phrases, select noun phrases as complement. And again, when you describe quantifiers, you need to mention which noun phrase the quantifier selects as complement. Also, bear in mind that quantifiers combine with different types of nouns. Some quantifiers combine with countable singular nouns. This is the case, for example, of the quantifiers another, each, either, and every. Some other quantifiers combine with countable plural nouns. This is the case of all, both, many, and other. And some other quantifiers combine with uncountable nouns. In this case, we have the quantifier much. Remember that numbers, both cardinal and ordinal, are also quantifiers, and that they also combine with different types of nouns. Bear all this information in mind in order to provide a complete description of quantifiers.